President Biden in New Hampshire. The president in the Portsmouth Harbor, which has benefited from the bipartisan infrastructure law. The White House says that port, which handles 3.5 million tons and nearly $2 billion of cargo a year, got nearly $2 million through the new law for maintenance, including a major widening project. The president telling that crowd the infrastructure law is bringing jobs, affordable high-speed internet to more homes and businesses, and upgrades to stormwater systems and power grids. He also touched on inflation and high gas prices, the impacts of the chip shortage on inflation, and what he calls the Putin price hike on gas. Of course, the president referring to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The president trying to tout his successes while the White House deals with so many global issues, the pandemic, Russia, and rising inflation. So let's get into it with ABC News Deputy Political Director Avery Harper and ABC News contributor and business expert Alexis Christoforous. Thank you both for joining me, coming out of the president's remarks there in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Avery, this is the first of 2 trips this week the president is taking to promote his bipartisan infrastructure law. We saw some trips last week as well. What's his sales pitch here during this political environment?
Right. Well, we know the midterms are coming up, and historically, the midterms are not really great for the president's party. And we know that the White House said that we would see President Biden out across the country with Democrats who are running for re-election. And this is really a part of that. We saw the president sing the praises of Senator Maggie Hassan of New Hampshire, who is up for re-election. And these remarks were really about touting his successes, mainly the bipartisan infrastructure law. That's why we saw him at a port in New Hampshire. But it's also about calling attention to what the Biden administration has yet to be able to fulfill. Because if they do not get Democrats back in office, if Republicans take control of one or both chambers of Congress, the remaining agenda items are going to be really difficult to complete.
Yeah, some political realities there for President Biden, who's been in this game for a long time. Avery, I want to play a bit of what he said during his remarks and get your thoughts on the other side.
We're the only country in the world, I believe, that has come out of every crisis we faced stronger than when we went in. Literally stronger than we went in. That's the history of the journey of this country.
The president there trying to get some emotions from the crowd there as he takes this road trip to try to sell so many things, including that bipartisan infrastructure law, to the people, Avery.
That's right. And again, it is really about getting folks to understand the difficult circumstances that this administration finds themselves in while they try to forge ahead on some of those large agenda items. And again, it's really about appealing to voters, trying to get them to get out to the polls, support Democrats so they can continue to move forward on their agenda.
Alexis, inflation, inflation, inflation. Americans dealing with it. They are hurting in their pockets. The president addressed that. Let's take a listen.
We saw the most recent inflation data. Last month, about 70% of the increase in inflation was a consequence of Putin's price hike because of the impact on gas and energy prices. I'm doing everything I can to bring down the price to address Putin's price hike. That's why I authorized the release of 1 million barrels per day for the next 6 months from our Strategic Petroleum Reserve.
Alexis, let me remind our viewers that just yesterday, the Biden administration revealed that more sanctions on Russia are coming amid continued aggression in Ukraine. What impact could this have on consumers and the price of gas in this country?
Well, you know, it's not a good outlook, Kenneth. Today, we saw gas prices actually start to creep higher. They were lower over the past few weeks. Last week, hitting $4.07 a gallon on average in this country. Today, they're now at $4.10. We're moving closer to the summer driving season, so demand is expected to move higher. The war in Ukraine continues to drag on. That's continuing to put pressure on prices. And President Biden echoing lots of themes he's been talking about over the past few weeks, saying, you know, he's doing all he can to help consumers at the gas pump. And even though he is tapping the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, and he keeps talking about that, it really has done little to roll prices back. And again, prices have actually been moving higher. One of my takeaways from what he said the war in Ukraine will continue to take its toll on inflation. And I think that's the big takeaway. There are only so many tools he has in his toolbox to try to roll back back inflation, both energy and food prices. And we're seeing him pull out all the stops as he moves closer to what is going to be a very tough midterm election.
Yeah, tough indeed. Avery and Alexis, while I got you, let me ask you about a couple other headlines. The ruling by a federal judge to void federal mask mandates took the White House, it appears, by surprise, but they don't seem to be fighting it, Avery.
Right. We know that the White House says that the Justice Department is reviewing the ruling and will decide how to proceed. But if you watched the White House press briefing yesterday, it was clear just how much confusion this ruling created. Jen Psaki, the White House press secretary, could not tell reporters whether or not passengers on planes are going to have to wear masks. We know that they are not going to have to wear masks. We know that the TSA is not going to enforce that mandate. But why this is really important is because it really does complicate how the White House is going to have to frame its messaging about pandemic mitigation efforts, this time around. But it also could create a bit of difficulty in terms of a similar mandate in the event of another pandemic.
Yeah, and Alexis, what does this mean on an economic standpoint?
Well, in terms of lifting the mask mandate, I think we need to move past the confusion first. Some clarity, I think, would help a lot of things. But if you look at what's happening on Wall Street today, Kenneth, we've got a nice, strong rally. And leading the way are these travel stocks, the hotel stocks, the cruise lines. They're all rallying because they believe that now that the mask mandates have been lifted, more people will want to go out and travel and stay in hotels. Some people may have been thinking about a long haul flight and said, I don't want to wear a mask for 6, 7, 8 hours, traveling from the U.S. overseas. Now they may rethink that trip if they feel they don't need to use the mask. Interestingly, at the height of the pandemic, not having a mask mandate actually hurt the economy. Lots of folks didn't feel comfortable going out and shopping and being in enclosed areas where there weren't people masking up. I think we're in a very different place in this pandemic now, and the fact that that mask mandate has been lifted could actually be a big boost and a tailwind to the economy, especially those travel-related companies, because they're still not at pre-pandemic levels. All
right, Alexis and Avery, always bringing y'all's A game. I appreciate it. Thanks so much. Good to talk to you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.